Good evening. Today is the 6th of October, 2025. It is the first Monday in the month of October, and we have been having some amazing weather here in the Detroit area and pretty much all of the Midwest, and even as far as the northeast part of the country. Much all of the Midwest, and even as far as the and you know 3 weeks ago, I started a platform to discuss education, and I had on a series of guests 3 weeks ago, then 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago, during my conversation, someone asked me about the lawsuit that was filed in the city of Detroit back in 2016. It was originally called the Gary B. versus Whitmer, and Whitmer was the governor at the time when it was settled. The lawsuit was initially filed against the state of Michigan, Detroit students filing a lawsuit seeking a quality education. Due to the test scores, a lot of these students felt they were being disenfranchised, and rightfully so. And along the path of my journey of literacy that I started in 2017, I met this one amazing young man by the name of Jamaria Hall. He was one of the litigants in the lawsuit. And as I told Mr. Hall earlier today, when I reached out to him, what happened was, as I was discussing the lawsuit, one of my listeners asked if I could get someone on to talk about that. I said, I do better than that. I would bring one of the chief architects of the lawsuit on the show, and that is Mr. Jamaria Hall. And I want to thank Deborah Harris, Karen Winston, Tamaria Kemet for listening this evening. That's on the YouTube site. I can see those on Facebook. I cannot see all the names. Unfortunately, I can see your comments when they come up, but I cannot see your name. I'm only on one platform at a time, even though I air on two platforms. So this is Detroit in Black and White presents Reality Strikes with Eric Brown. And I want to welcome my guest, Jamaria Hall. And I'll give you 30 seconds to a minute to introduce yourself to the audience, Mr. Hall.
Yes, sir. First, I want to thank you so much. And just really want to admire you. I think a lot of people don't really understand that this is really just truly a passion of yours. This is something that you really just saw an issue with and really just feel like you had to stand up, be a part of, and be a part of really changing. And that's really just the same as myself. It's just I was a high school student at the time and was trying to see what I could do. And that's being a productive citizen to my society. And at that point in time, understanding that education is supposed to help us change our circumstances. So I continue to fight for education today.
Oh, no doubt. And thank you, Tamari, and shout out to Helen Moore, without a doubt. And both myself and Mr. Hall are very familiar with Miss Moore. Matter of fact, saw her last month at the Detroit Public School Community District board meeting. So definitely she is someone that is a definite passionate architect of the literacy movement, educational movement as well. So, Mr. Hall, I know in doing the research, I was living in Detroit at the time, living in the Detroit area at the time. And once I learned about the lawsuit, I did some research. It was like, wow, it took a lot for students to understand and realize that they were being cheated out of an education in Detroit. So what was your primary motivation? I know your father's in education, so I know you have a very strong educational background. And coming from a family with an education background, because your father's what, principal, assistant principal?
Yeah, he's assistant principal at East Ingles Village.
Okay, so in going to your father, seeing he's an administrator, school administrator, what was the conversation like when you went to him saying, Dad, something's wrong with this educational thing?
I think the problem for most students isn't saying that something is wrong. I think a lot of students know something is wrong. It's just about articulating that it's wrong.
Right.
And proving how it's wrong. I think that's the biggest part that we've all been a challenge to. And that was the biggest part of the lawsuit. It's not saying that we were the first of our kind to say that educational, because as we know, Brown versus Board, there's been so many other cases that have said what is it, Rodriguez down in Texas, Rodriguez versus Texas. There's been so many other cases, but it was the
Right.
first day that on students' behalf. So it was really more so life stories. I didn't grow up with my father, so I actually grew up with my mother. So I didn't grow up with the ideal educational backing, but Osborne was the first DPS school that I went to. So I think really it was just right place at the right time. Me and my father really didn't even have conversations about it. It was something that I just felt very, very passionate about. Me and the lawyer, they came in from California Public Counsel, Mark Rosenbaum. Me and Mark, we really kind of connected. And I think that we really liked it, kind of fed off of each other, off of him trying to, I guess he was trying to explain to us that something was wrong. But for myself, we had a conversation. I knew what was wrong, and I could kind of articulate it because I've been to other different school districts and other different atmospheres, environments. I can kind of at least know what a norm is.
And what's interesting, Mr. Hall, is that, in finding out for myself that the lawyers were from California, Mr. Rosenbaum and his cohorts, was there anything when you guys decided to come together to file this lawsuit? Did you shop it to any of the lawyers in the Detroit area or anywhere in Michigan? How'd you wind up with Attorney Rosenbaum?
Yeah, I think Rosenbaum really found us. He actually graduated University of Michigan, so he had a kind of somewhat of a connection to Michigan. Was at least familiar with Michigan as a state, not more so as Detroit. But definitely, I believe he saw, just like we saw at that point in time as a student. I had seen that, and it's so crazy because we're kind of back in the same predicament. But Trump had released in one of his first months in office, he had released some of the 50 lowest performing schools in the nation. And almost all of the Detroit high schools were on there except for 3 or 4. So just being a Detroit high school student at that point in time, it was really like an attack on us. If you kind of looked at the list, it really highlighted Michigan and the city of Detroit. And I think, I believe Mark saw that same list, and he really, really just tried to come back to Michigan, understanding that he already had graduated from the University of Michigan and was already doing some great things around civil rights and human rights. And this was just kind of one of the things that sparked his attention. But more so, I believe that, again, it was right place, right time. And more so, I believe it was God. I don't think a lot of people here in Michigan thought it was something that was feasible, something that could be done, because we were so used to it. At that point in time, about 2016, we had been going through educational demise for the past 20 years. So some people had went through 2 decades of the same thing. And it wasn't the first case that was filed during this time. I think we have to remember that there were other cases filed during this time too. Again, what makes this case unique is that there are students not only involved, but leading the case. And I think that was not only the reason why it was unique, but it was also the reason why it was won.
And essentially you bring that up, and that was going to be my next point. We talk about the uniqueness of the case because it was one of the first where students were involved. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure. I think you have seen the documentary, The Right to Read. Yeah, you did see the documentary, Right to Read. And in that documentary, it was mentioned that students got so fed up that they filed the lawsuit seeking a quality education. And I tried to get Kareem Weaver, who was the architect of that particular documentary, being the main talking voice in the documentary. And I met him. I'm not sure you met him. And it was so interesting because me and him were on a webinar back in 2021. And MSNBC was the broadcast partner for the webinar. Pam Good, Beyond Basics, was one of the panelists, along with Kareem Weaver, who used to be the president of the Oakland chapter, NAACP, as well as a former teacher, rising all the way up to the ranks of principal. And he talked about an incident that his daughter brought to his attention. She was like, "Dad, today they were talking about the fact that 75% of Black boys are not reading at grade level, K through 12 Black boys." They talked about that at school. She came home, told her dad about the conversation, and he was like, "Unfortunately, baby girl, that's right." what struck me, because I have a daughter myself, and even though that was in California, 2017, 5 years later, same thing. 75% of black boys in the state of California, K through 12, were not reading at grade level. The next thing out of his mouth, and myself and Mr. Weaver were the only two males of color that were a part of the webinar. But the next thing out of his mouth was his daughter telling him, wow, how am I going to find a husband? And that was real, because, you know, it was a mic drop, and, you know, I couldn't say anything. He can, I mean, because, you know, we can't, I'm never one to speak on behalf of Black America, because I'm not the answer man for Black America. Even if I'm in the room of all non-Black people, don't look at me to be the answer man for Black people. You know, I can have an opinion, but I don't have the answers. So that situation right there was like, wow, that summed it up, because even right now in Detroit, you know, Channel 4 News put out the statistics with regards to poverty. You know, Detroit is the poorest city in the country, 500,000 population of 500,000 or more. 34% live at the rate of poverty, kids. And it was like, wow, when we talk all the time, people need to understand the importance of literacy and education, and the impact it has on so many things that we deal with in society. I mean, employment, education, parenting, joblessness, unemployment, you know, so we need to understand that. So I've always applauded you for what you all did back in, was it 2016, I think, when the lawsuit was first filed. And then the settlement came in 2020, $94 million. And that's one of the questions. I'm not sure if you can read the comments in the comments section, but one of the comments, and I was going to get to that, one of the comments I saw today on here was two things that somebody want to ask you. The first thing I want to ask you is, what happened to the millions of the dollars in the settlement? I just talked about they have until September 30th, 2027 to spend it all. But from your perspective, how is that $94 million being utilized to better the educational outcomes in Detroit?
I guess at first I can kind of like two-part answer, because you will never see a bad school in like a good neighborhood. If it's a good neighborhood, most likely the schools in their neighborhoods are good schools. So most likely if you have a good school, you're going to have good neighborhoods. So that right. Education is the center. In the 60s and the 70s, it was voting that we were fighting for. Today, we're fighting for educational access. Education is a civil rights issue of today. I know we are in the informational age, but education and useful education, and specifically literacy, and not literacy in reading and writing, but literacy in application and comprehension, is a very, very tough issue of today, which plays a part into during the settlement we had, or during the lawsuit, we had did an appraisal of the school district, and to seeing what would it cost the school district to be up, not a brand new school district, but up to par, to be humane, to be usable, feasible for students, for the school district. And we appraised broken down abandoned schools at that point in time that were closed down. It was $500 million to get the school district up to par, not some of the schools, but to get the whole school district up to par to be able to be feasible and used, it would cost $500. So for myself, there was no price on the constitutional right to education. There's no amount of money that you can put on that, even a loss of education. So we kind of forget that this was also a class action lawsuit. So it wasn't just about present students or future students. It was also about past students. So now when we see statistics coming out now talking about 50% of adults are illiterate, these are the people that were part of the lawsuit also. This is a class action lawsuit for all of us, not just a portion of us. And the $94 million, I believe, is being spent. First off, no, we did not sue the school district, but we understood that the school district hands were tied, and that maybe we needed to try some new approaches to try to advance and get to a place that we were far behind at first. So now we may need to do some abstract things now to get it farther ahead. Maybe setting a priority, setting a precedent for some new school districts to kind of model what's going on, specifically minority-driven school district, to see how can we make a rapid change or rapid progression, specifically within reading. But for myself, it was just all around, because truthfully, if you've ever been in a classroom or if you're a teacher, you know that subjects normally feed off of each other. If the school is doing well, then normally all of the proficiency is doing well. It's not just a math or reading or writing thing. It's more so a confidence thing for students.
Right.
Really making sure that students are confident enough, they have the resources to be able to be educated, and they're not set up to fail. That was the biggest thing for us during the lawsuit, was that we were being set up to fail. We had to take the same national standardized tests as other people, but we had less resources, and not only less resources, outdated resources. So at least getting up-to-date resources for the students and making sure that they had a chance, a fighting chance to at least be educated. So the money is being spent, as you stated. All the money has not been spent. A large portion of it has went to reading academic interventionist institutions and hired paraprofessional individuals, but no one that filed the lawsuit has been a part of the rollout of how the settlement funds are being spent. So I think that we should really be a part of how it's getting rolled out, because again, we're the reason, or a big part of the reason why it's here.
Yeah, no doubt. And then, yeah, I mean, yeah, right. You didn't sue the school, did you? You sued the state of Michigan, but in essence, school employees, teachers are state employees. So yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword with regards to who were the defendants in the lawsuit. State of Michigan, pseudo DPS. And I want to say shout out to Mr. 1213, Jill Sheridan, regular viewers, Deborah Harris. And one of the things that someone asked, and you can see the comment on your screen, I think, Jamera, how does Detroit school, or how has Detroit schools improved since the lawsuit? To the best of your knowledge, is that something you can answer?
It's so sad that I believe that they haven't. I don't think that we knew that a pandemic would be coming after we filed the lawsuit, but I believe we were at a pandemic or at a crisis already. If you look at the academic progression even before the pandemic coming, we were already on the decline. I think a lot of us have to understand that, like, coming out of, and this is no slap, but this is a real statistic, this is a real reality. Coming out of slavery, we were more proficient and more educated than our students are today. And that's that's a sad reality. That's a sad thing, especially when the resources are electronic now. The resources aren't physical. The resources aren't, it's not about reading. It's not about reading. It's not about math. It's not about proficiency. It's not about any type of numbers. It's about the paper. If you go talk to the students, you go look at the students, and you see the feel and the look on the students' faces. Or you go ask the student to read a page out of a book if you go into a second or third grade classroom. That's all I really care about. And that has not improved. Right. I believe it's really
right. And it's interesting you brought that up, because I tell people all the time, when you look at the results of the Emancipation Proclamation and you look at the Freedmen's Aid Society, one of the issues that slaves had, because they were pigeonholed into not being able to read. I mean, you could lose your life if they found out you were being educated. I mean, Frederick Douglass had to lead a country. So reading and education proficiency was at a very high level, because that was the advent of a lot of the historically Black colleges and universities. A lot of, people do their research. A lot of colleges and universities for Blacks were founded anywhere from 1863 to the late 1863 into the late 1890s area. You have a very large amount of Black colleges and universities that were founded. They had a quest and a zeal to want to learn how to read, to want to learn how to do math and things of that nature. So you're right. It's unfortunate, very unfortunate, that here we are over 160 years, 180 years later, and the state of education was better for those coming off slave plantations than it is now. And one of the things that me and you have talked about often is parents as well as students need to understand they're walking around with a $1,000 computer right on their hip. And instead of all that TikToking and social media, they need to be doing research, because AI is about to change the game in and of itself. And that's something that needs to be taught. And I told my son, he has a degree in computer business information system. I told him to go back and get a cybersecurity or either an AI certificate, because that's his thing. He's good with computers. Take advantage of what the future is. And you can take advantage of the future now when you already have the ability to understand how computers and all that stuff work, coding. So yeah, people have to understand that we have to be the catapult to be very intentional and deliberate about why we are so passionate about education and literacy.
Yeah, and it's just truly that the shackles, the chains have been taken off of our physical body and put on our minds. It was about subjects. It was about just learning and wanting to be better and understanding that you need to get to better. And I think that we have a facade today that things are good and things are better, and that specifically for a lot of parents that they believe that schools are educating their children. But that was the biggest thing, and that's what I really kind of understood, and that's why we filed the lawsuit around the constitutional right to an education, which had to be qualified as literacy, because we don't have a right. There's no obligation schools to educate anyone. So we have public institutions that really have no true deed that has to be put forward specifically for the babies in those classrooms. And that's something that definitely needs to be changed, even if it's a constitutional right, if it's a national student bill of rights, if it's a preamble to a parallel constitution of education, whatever we're talking about. Education is at the center of anything in the world. The masses have never been fully literate, have never been fully equipped to be fully literate. But we are in the day and age today to where even if we simply learn how to learn, that will help us in this realm of informational artificial intelligence, of being able to know how to prompt it, to being able to know how to really ask yourself specific questions and knowing what you want. I think that's going to be the biggest things for a lot of us, because a lot of us have been doing things for others and been just kind of content and been kind of just almost like robots. We've been the robots. So now that the robots are going to do their real job, we have to figure out what we're going to do. And to do that, we're educated.
And to Mary Kimmett, she made a good point, which is a shout out to yourself and the other youth, even going back to the lunch counter situations in, Greensboro and Wilmington and other cities and states. Our revolutionary movements are led by youth. I mean, Dr. Martin Luther King, when he first went to college, he was only 16 years old. So when he came out of college, he was still a teenager leading movements. And as I stated earlier, with regards to the correlation between poverty and education and the role that education plays on so many things. Right here today, Channel 4 in Detroit, the NBC affiliate, talked about the poverty problem in Detroit. 51% of children live in poverty. That's triple the national average. Overall poverty rate in Detroit, 34%. And as I stated earlier, Detroit is the poorest city in America with a population of over 500,000 people. And with that being said, what is your take on the individuals running for, city council? Your father live in, one of the districts. You have at-large members of city council. Then you also have two people seeking the office of mayor. What's your take on their position or lack of position when it comes to education, or the role that they can play to improve the relationship between the elected officials in the city and the elected school board members?
I think the first has to be we have to stop making such a divide between the two, because all we do is ping pong the issues back and forth to each other. But at the end of the day, it's our city. We all live here. At the end of the day, like, this is us. We have to deal with it regardless, good and bad. So it don't matter if it's happening in the schools or if it's happening in the neighborhoods. But the schools are in the neighborhoods. So I think this separation of school, state, and school and local really has to stop. Not more so on the budget end, but of just trying to work together. I think there's an African proverb. It says like, how are the, and that's how they greet each other. they greet each other with the saying of "How are the children?" And if the children are well, the village is well.
The
If
village as well.
then the village isn't well. And I think we have to move with that sense of urgency. But specifically, the last should be first, the first should be last. And we can't continue to let other people tell us what and who we are. We have to start, and this is why we have to be educated. We have to start to do data and statistics of our own. We have to start to quantitate our own statistics. We have to start to quantitate ourselves, and we have to do for self. For anyone that's running right now, I tell them to go study the Coleman Young era. I tell them to study Kwame Kilpatrick. I tell them to study us. I tell them to study and learn from them. I'm not saying go be them. I'm saying learn.
Right. Just learn from them.
See what they did. How were they proficient? And we need to really work with each other. If we don't take over the city, we see people are coming back every day. We see our city is changing every day drastically. So if we don't love the city, other people are coming in loving it drastically. So we have to truly be educated, but more so we have to love each other. And not only just as adults, we got to love the babies. We can't look at the children that's coming up and that's coming around as a danger, as a harm to us. We have to look at them as a benefit, as the future us, as the present us, and really install not only love, because again, we all in the same boat, we all in the same city. So outside of education, don't let people tell us who we are, because now we're seeing it change. And just 10 years ago, they were telling us that none of this would be able to happen in Detroit. So if we continue to listen to other people, then we're going to continue to be in positions that we are in. So we have to do for self. If you're running for a government or a public seat, make sure you're qualified and you've done the research to know what it takes to be in that seat. Don't just run for something just because you think you can run. Somebody else told you to run. Run with the education, the resources, and have something of your own that you want to do when you get
bring it to the table, right? And you bring up a good point about love, because it's unfortunate you had 2 kids shot earlier today, which is the result of an argument, and the argument could not have been that deep that it results in you pulling guns out on fellow black boys, and we have no idea who the perpetrators of the crime were. But at the end of the day, we have to learn how to love one another to prevent these type of instances from happening. Also, I want to welcome G Money Hollywood to the podcast this evening as a viewer, Willie Martin as well. And Deborah Harris brings up a very interesting point. You alluded and touched on it just now, Mr. Hall. Where do we go from here? And it's interesting because that's the Dr. Martin Luther King book, Community or Chaos. And I think, we've seen chaos. And to your point of what you just talked about, the only thing that's going to bring us together is community and getting back to that village. What do you think, or how do you feel about that comment? Where do we go from here?
We have to move forward. I think we're getting to a point right now, and it's so sad, to where it gets so chaotic that you have no choice but to come together. And it's so sad. I believe that was also a point in time that we were at during the 60s and 70s, so where it was like, it's so much going on around so many different things that we got to come together and create a consensus. And that consensus was the right to vote. I think today that consensus may be education. We have to make sure that at least our babies are educated, and we have at least the resources to be educated. So if we want to go get education, we should be able to go seek it. We should be able to know where it's at. And we should also, schools should be hubs. So now what that looks like is that a parallel constitution of education? Is this a constitutional right of education? And how do we really define what education is? Because there are some people right now saying that we are already being educated. So really, really, for us as a people, we have to say, what does education look like for us? But specifically, we got to have the babies at the table. If we don't have the babies at the table, if we're not listening to the youth, as was just stated, youth have led every movement, every revolutionary movement, and not just here in America, not just in our day and age. This is back before. This is
other countries as well. Other countries, what happened in Brazil a few years ago was led by the youth. And what's interesting, we talk about community. One thing that brought Detroiters together initially was the 1967 rebellion, riot, whatever you want to call it, uprising. And then 6 years later, you had the election, Coleman Young. in 1973 that brought black people and brought the black community of Detroit together. So right now we just need that. And I think the one thing, and you touched on it, you know how I feel about it, the one thing that can do that is education, because it just builds so much in the sense of humanity. It teaches you so many skills: critical thinking, one, thinking for yourself, two, the ability to think, and engage others to coalesce for a common good is a result of education and being learned. So there are so many things that can happen by way of a decent quality education for all. And this question right here is a very good one from Tamari Kimmon. She said, if you had a magic wand, what would be the one thing you would do to change the school system in Detroit? Good question. Very good question.
I make the whole school board youth, current youth, high school students.
You see, the whole school board youth
of teachers, youth and teachers would be on the school board. Current people that are in schools would be on the school board. I think a lot of times we have people talking about issues that aren't currently dealing with the issues, so it's kind of automatically a disconnect. But they still have to talk about the same issues and same things that are dealing with today. But specifically, my ideal educational system is students getting paid to learn and teach subjects to their peers and to other peers. I really ideally see students being the lead instructors within communities, specifically in the day and age when it's their realm. AI technology is their realm. Us trying to really catch up to it, but specifically letting them lead. I don't think that we're trying to catch up with the times. We want to be the times. We want to make the next times. I think we have gotten out of the realm of creation to now trying to fit in. I think we need to get back into the realm and create inventors. These were the things we learned some of these same times that you were talking about. We can look at Reconstruction. We had some of the fastest growing politicians that we're still trying to catch up to. We had some of the, like you said, some of the highest proficiency rates, some of the highest educational institutions built. During these times, we were doing so many different things, but I also think that we were at a peak of, like, we could throw all the subjects, all the big words, all the everything out the window. I think we were at the peak of self. We kind of knew where we stood, and we kind of knew where we wanted to go. We understood that we were the only ones to get ourselves out of that. At least most of us understood that we were the only ones to get ourselves out of that. And I think we've learned what the other side has done with us kind of integrating. Not saying that integration was a problem or it's a bad thing, but it's saying that the integration really, we the only things that got took out of that. Our sense of self, our sense of knowledge, our sense of culture. Not saying that we still don't have culture, we don't have sense of knowledge, but specifically our education, it makes sense of knowledge and sense of culture was really taken from us during that time.
And that answer is, I mean, I love that answer because, I'm not sure what type of conversations you have had with either the mayoral candidates, the two finalists, Mary Sheffield and Pastor Kinloch, but your answer would be a good conversation piece for Pastor Kinloch, because one of the things that he said he would do is create an educational czar as a part of his administration. And you just outlined the job description for that position. So you might want to have a holler at him.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with both candidates. And I think for us as a people, and this is, we hear people say, well, we got Mike Duggan right now. What is he? He nonpartisan. He independent. We can be independent. We can be independent because regardless of whoever wins, we still citizens of the city.
You got to work with them, right?
Regardless of whoever wins. So regardless of whoever you vote for, whoever wins is still accountable to you. So I definitely have something in store for both of them. Depending on whoever wins, definitely have had conversations with both of them. Definitely wish the well for both of them. Definitely have good relationships with both of them. And just glad to see us in the position to try to be over our city. But really, I would like to see us have our own mindset. I would like to see us have some of our own goals and trajectories. I would like us to be fully prepared for the positions that we're trying to assume and not just take advantage of opportunities when it's given to us.
Great point, because one of the conversations I did share with Council President Sheffield is that whatever plans that she has for an educational type part of her administration is to put people in there with a passion for it, number one. put people there with a knowledge and understanding of how to interpret the proficiency rates and the scores, as well as put people in there that really care, that are not doing it to have a resume pattern. They're doing it because they really want to do it. So that's one of the conversations I had with her, and similar conversation that I had with Pastor Kinlock once he mentioned about the goal to have an educational czar, because you can't keep putting people in these roles as a political favor, and all they're doing is padding their resume. You have to put people in these roles that understand the seriousness of the situation. In addition, I'm not the biggest fan of Governor Whitmer, but I applaud Governor Whitmer for creating MyLeap. Yes, it's another level of bureaucracy, but she decided to say only that the elected school board can only do so much. The state superintendent can only do so much. But with them doing what they are doing, they're still missing something. And she created MyLeap. And thus far, it's still a little bit too early to tell, but thus far, MyLeap is a success because they look at education from the cradle to the grave.
Mm-hmm.
School boards and superintendents, no matter what city you're in, they look at education from K through 12. Well, not pre-K through 12. And MyLeap is we all don't like more government, but MyLeap is a necessary evil to try and get something done, if you understand what I'm saying, because you have to have something that's going to create a mechanism for people to play a role in what's going on in the current state of education, the current state of society, the current state of being in a city like Detroit. So I want to thank, great question, that Mary asked you before, and that's a comment from Mr. Ronald Booth, one of my mentees from the days of the Cranbrook Horizon Upward Bound program. So thanks for that question that you asked, Tamari. And then Tamari, let me come back to Tamari. Miss Sheila, she said great conversation. She's a regular viewer. She has a question for you. And I'm not sure if you can see it on the screen. And if you can, I'll read it to you. She asking that you be a servant, which you already are, but if you ever run for office, she would definitely thank you.
What you just kind of alluding to that though, Mr. Brown. What you say? Office, then you got to play the game. I'm trying to change the game first. We got to understand that there is no real office. The office is with the people. I think even the preamble. That's why even I'm talking about the preamble now. I think a lot of us we forget about the we the people aspect of it. We are the people, we the power, like even though it's the United States and the United States of America, but we the United States and
we the people. I mean, you see a lot of my posts. My post speaks to the fact that we the people and we have to make the decisions for us. And I'm saying us, black, white, green, purple, whatever, but we the people have the power. And you're going to like this comment, Mr. Hall, because this is something me and you have talked about quite often. Deborah Harris is asking or saying, does Detroit have good teachers? The answer to that, Deborah, is yes. I know a lot of teachers. And do they have the ability to encourage young mothers and fathers to help their children learn? That's a very interesting question because you spoke to that earlier on with regards to being a byproduct of a failed school system. And now some of these parents are now parents of kids in the school system. And it's going to take a village. One of the things that, and I just put the bag out right now, one of the things that I've been talking about with another elected official is trying to get our community, the village, the fraternities, the sororities, the business leaders, the church pastors, the deacons, the deaconesses, get them involved to adopt a school and invest in the future. Because that's what it's going to take. Because we have to understand a lot of these parents have been failed. And using the Dr. Martin Luther King quote with regards to asking a bootless man to lift himself up by the bootstraps, you cannot ask an uneducated parent to be there to educate their kid. And I don't mean uneducated in a negative way, but we do understand that there is a miseducation that took place. Now you're asking, because people always want to say it starts at home. I say all the time, yes, it does start at home, but with a caveat.
Yeah.
You got to make sure you're on an equal playing field when you say it starts at home. It's easy for me, yourself, other educated people to say it starts at home because we had a good foundation at, at the home front or in the home front. So we just can't be so arrogant and elite to think everyone is playing with that equal or playing at an equal playing field. It'd be no different. You had the dream team go out in their heyday and playing the starting five from the University of Michigan. That's a no contest. It's not an equal playing field. So until you get everyone on an equal playing field, that's the only way you're going to be able to improve and get the parents to understand they have a role to play as well. But it's also, I learned a few years ago at a educational forum I put on. One of the students stated that they knew that their parents cannot read. So to help their parents learn how to read and understand what was being said on TV, they turned on the closed captions. And they read the words from what the actors were saying to their parents. So when the parents had a question, they would pause it and explain to their parent. So it's reach one, teach one. And you could do that by teaching, your parents as well. But it took a lot for a student to even admit that in the open forum, that they helped to educate their parent. And there are all kinds of unique ways to do it. And that, I had never thought about the closed caption as a way to teach someone how to read and write. And that was a very unique approach.
Yeah, I'm developing some literacy playgrounds right now to really try to make education fun. But that is the realm of trying to really highlight the reading and ELA type aspect. It's like you said, the closed captions outside of like writing workshops and things of that nature, but really watching movies on closed captions. It even bridges the language barrier a lot of times, even when you're working in multi logistic areas. Oftentimes you can kind of put on those closed captions and play it in a certain language and then have the closed captions in another, and then kind of help the larger audience. But
Right.
I really yes, we have good teachers. And I think, as you just stated, though, when we were, and I only talk about slavery times because it's like, I like to learn about then like where we going in the future. So I don't want people to leave from this like, why do we keep talking about like the 60s and 70s like he's super old? But like, these are the people I grew up with. Like I talk to SNCC members on the regular. Like, these are my elders. These are the type of people that I organize with. So I kind of just resonate.
Right. Bobby Gibson, that's somebody I talk to a lot as well. And, he's an elder that you have to respect. And one point of reference, I want to say this with regard to teachers. Yesterday was, it fell on a Sunday, but yesterday was International Teachers Day. And I pay homage to the teachers by putting a Facebook post out there recognizing teachers. Yes, there are some bad teachers, but there are far more good teachers than there are bad teachers. It's no different than police. There are far more good police than there are bad police, far more good doctors than bad doctors. So again, happy International Teachers Day to all the teachers that do what they do, because it takes a lot to be a teacher. Trust me, it's not an easy job, and they're doing their thing.
Happy National
Now,
Teachers
Bob can attest to that. He's an assistant principal.
I will say, individuals good individuals can be caught up in corrupt systems. So I can't say that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Naturally, systems can be predatory, but there are good people in predatory systems, and people upkeep systems. I think we got to remember that, just like local make up state. But specifically, I think that to answer the last question again, I believe around the parents aspect, we have to make schools accessible to parents. Parents have to be, again, accessible to come in the classroom. When we were, again, learning in huts, we didn't come to our elders, and when we were creating these educational institutions and these academic institutions, we went to elders not for academic advice, not to teach us how to read or to help us with our homework. We went to them for life advice on how to dictate and how to get through certain circumstances, understanding
life skills, right? How to get through life.
Be equipped to whatever obstacles may come up. And this obstacle may be ELA homework, it may be math homework, but more perceptively, we're trying to deal with the world around us because we're not used to this world. We're trying to adapt and trying to fit into this world. So that's what we were coming back and asking about. And I think that's the same thing with our babies today. They're trying to figure out how to fit into this world because they've seen kind of where their parents are. They see what the world has to offer. They see what some of their peers are doing. sectors because now they can see the whole nation and the whole world at the click of their finger. So now they're starting to see success. They want instant gratification. So I think helping parents be into schools and also getting paid to do this. All of my ideas, they
I
end
know
up.
your ideas, but your ideas involve two things: money and feeding them when they come.
Hey, that's it.
And G Money brings up an interesting point because we talked about the community often. He says that resources will always be a fight for predominantly Black communities. It will never be distributed equally. So as a community, we need self-educate with a hands-on deck approach so everyone can compete. You know, G Money, you're gonna like my response to this because one of the things with regards to adopted schools, invest in the future, we will be putting a sort of like a resource yellow pages as relates to education so that the resources that are available will be handed out to people. I mean, one of the things I did with my 5K walks, I had resources from the community because literacy and education and the lack thereof is one of them situations just like mental health. It's some people don't like talking about. So I provided an opportunity for resources to be available along the track. So if someone felt like taking a break, a water break, they could talk to someone one-on-one as opposed to being in a big open audience when it comes to that because people are embarrassed about that. Just like mental health. We want to say, you know, Uncle Charlie and, you know, Cousin Fred or Cousin Louise are the entertainment. No, they're not the entertainment. They have a problem that we need to be serious and address. And it's the same thing with educational literacy. People would never know. I mean, I've done onboarding, you know, with a background in human resources, and I'm not going to get up and read the policies, procedures all day. I'm going to ask for participation from the new hires. But when I call on someone, like I say, Mr. Hall, can you read this paragraph for me? And when they hear me Hall, I know right then and there that they have a reading problem. And I would never embarrass them. I would say, I'll come back to you later. I would never go back to them because I wouldn't put them on spot again. But it's obvious when someone is in a situation that they're not comfortable doing something and or they can't do it. And someone made a comment about the special ed. They have assistants up to the age of 26, which is true. So we have to pay special attention to that demographic group as well. And Ms. Sheila says, people say parents need to participate in their education. It's lacking. That's true. I mean, you spoke on that. That is true. And I see I'm on the board of a charter school. And one of the things that I constantly harp on with the principal is what's up with the parent participation. Because if the parents are not participating, kids grow up thinking it's okay to not participate. And we pretty much mirror what our parents do. And the more you see parents around, that's why it's so important. And, you know, one of the things I really want to get done also, I want to see more Black men participating because I'm at events a lot of times and I'm the only Black male there. I'll never forget a few years ago, I was up in Eastern Michigan. We did a program on mental health for the students, freshman students. And when you hear college students say that they have never seen so many Black men in a shirt and tie all at one time, I was like, wow, hold up. Didn't you go to your graduation? Don't you go to church? And I don't, no shade on people if they go to church or not. But to hear someone say that they never seen so many Black men in a shirt and tie at one time, I'm like, wow. So we have to do better. We just have to, do better of emulating what we want to see the children become because they want to be the success that they see.
But also, I will say this too. Negative sticks out more than good.
No doubt.
A lot of positive going on. And I think the biggest secret, specifically, at least around the resources question is we don't need the most resources. That's the biggest secret that we can do with the little. We can do with the little to none and still be great beyond measure. So I think the biggest thing is knowing who we are, knowing what we are, knowing where we want to go, having our own ideas that if people keep dictating what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and where we're going to go, how we're going to end up. But specifically, stop worrying about other people. We got to worry about ourselves. When we do that and really kind of care and love for each other and care and love for each other like this other person is yours. This person is your child. It don't matter who child it is. We care for all babies over here. It don't matter
And
who
that's how it
baby.
used to be back in the day. I mean, my parents, my neighbors were my parents. The neighbors down the street were my parents, and everyone on that block, if you did something wrong, they had the right to, well, you know, you can't say whip anymore. They had the right to discipline you. You got another piece of discipline once you got home from your parents.
I'll be the
You know,
first to say
so
they need a whooping.
you know, but you know, you definitely can't say that in the classroom. You know, I went through the last year, and I went through the training for the nonprofit I work for. You know, Elijah. I think you know Elijah Richardson. You know, as part of his Michigan Urban Youth Alliance, and when I was going through that training to get certification in different aspects of education, you can't say that anymore in the classroom. You can't even threaten these kids anymore. The teachers, the students and their parents have all the power. And there might be something that needs to be fixed, but they have all the power. I was just blown away as I was going through the training. I'm reading stuff like, hold on, this can't be right. I'm seeing if it's some invisible ink. They playing the trick on me. I'm being punked. But the parents and the teachers, the parents and the students have all the power. And G Money, I'm a former athlete, so I'm competitive. So to your point, G Money, no one really wants to commit to improving the educational system. That's a challenge to me. So I'm going to prove you wrong, G Money, and I will keep you abreast on how things are going, because as long as I have brothers like Mr. Hall working with me, we're going to prove you wrong, because it is about improving the educational system. And those that don't want to come along, hey, we just leave them on the side of the road. We pick up another hitchhiker to help us in this fight, because it's a fight that needs to be fought. So we will get the work done. And, you're readily available, G Money, because you listen to all the shows on the Detroit in Black and White platform. So I will be reaching out to you to bring you along to assist in this challenge, because I'm going to call it a challenge at this point, and have you come to the table with some solutions that we can spread to the people.
Yeah. And I think also it's not I think what he's really speaking to is like, and that's what my biggest ideal is like being in both sectors, or well, I say it's always three Detroits, like a Metro Detroit, the kind of like professional Detroit, and then it's like a that Detroit that you see on like Crime in the D. Like,
but you got to bring them along as well, and that's one of the reasons.
Real Detroit, like some people think that the bougie Detroit is the real Detroit. That's not Detroit.
No, that's not Detroit.
Go somewhere else and you travel about the person, when we see each other and we know we from Detroit, that's because it's a real Detroiter. It's not no like a Metro Detroit. They probably just happen to find out after they having conversation like, oh, you from Detroit too? Like y'all ain't even know each other from Detroit. But like real Detroiters, when we see each other, we automatically know like what's going on. So like understanding that that's the real Detroit, and those are the real people that need to be involved in. They aren't going to be in spaces that we are in. And it's so sad.
Right, and that's you got to seek them out, and that's one of the reasons. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so big on the CVI groups, because they know the community. They know, and I don't like using the term bad. They know where the community challenged kids are, or community challenged young adults are. So you got to bring them along and get them involved as well, because at the end of the day, no one person can do it alone. Now, if I put on an event and one person come, at least I have opportunity to get that one person engaged. And if they are so engaged, they will leave there and go tell somebody what they learned at the event that they were at. All it takes is one to spread the word in the community.
You know what I started doing? You remember? I remember you had came to one of my events. I believe you're the only person that came when I was trying to do some some information, just try to get information out about the lawsuit. But like, if you go to other events, a lot of people know me. A lot of people
right
have good relationships.
I wasn't the only one at that event. It was more people there than me.
There are a couple of people, but like
yeah.
Of people trying to be a part of this conversation specifically.
Right.
We're talking about 94 million. We're talking about Detroit. We're talking about progressive problems to this, solutions to this problem. You would think a lot more people would be abrupt. But I also realized I got to take it to the people. If I'm having an event, that mean I'm having an event in the wrong place. So that mean maybe I need to go to the streets and talk to people. Maybe I
Because
need
the was at the rec center. Was it at a church? It was at a church or a rec center.
right across the street, Solomon Temple.
Yeah, Solomon Temple, right.
An area that I'm very familiar with, which is still 7 Mile, but still understand that like a lot of our people, we got a lot of trauma. We got a lot of different things going on with this. So where if we're going to let other people tell us what we need to do, a lot of people know what needs to happen, but we tired of hearing it. Like we don't want somebody to keep telling us what we need to do. So really getting out there with the people, getting your hands dirty, and really working with them.
Right. And somebody gave you a special comment about your, I think it was Deborah Winston, but I can't find. I don't know if you saw it. I had it up for a minute. She spoke to you going to the root, and you mentioning slavery and all that, and she applauded you for that because you have to take it to the beginning, because you have to understand the beginning to get to the middle and even be able to talk about the end. So that's what she was saying. And I'm not sure how I lost the comment, but yeah, she was thanking you for taking it to the root.
I truly appreciate it, Ms. Harris. Well, we got to begin. That's not our beginning, but that's the beginning of our organizing. I only use it in good context. That's not the beginning of us, though. I think everybody in this chat, everybody on the podcast, please take a look at There's a River by Dr. Vincent Harding, who wrote a lot of Martin Luther King speeches. But it'll definitely change your perspective of what the root is. But you do have to understand where a good, strong foundation of it is. I think sometimes we only think about the root, but a lot of times we only see the tree and we only see the stump of the tree. So that stump is almost as strong, even though it's connected to the root. It's not the root, but it's a great, strong foundation. So I look at that as kind of like a foundation of something that really kind of at least shaped us to where we are at now and why we're going through some of the problems and issues that we're going through.
And Tamari Kimmett, she put in the chat about the Black Legacy Coalition is on a mission to build an independent Black school system. Dr. Gloria House. I'm not sure if Dr. Gloria House is the name of the person or that's the name of the school it'll be named after. And I would like to talk to you about that, Tamari, because there's also a movement from the HBCU community to get more involved in authorizing charter schools with a mission centered on, independent Black education. So yeah, I definitely would like to hear more from you about that, Tamari, because this is my first time hearing about the Black Legacy Coalition wanting to build an independent Black school system. So yeah, definitely we need to talk. You see, Miss Sheila says, what's CVI? Ask the lunch lady in school knows they need it. Not sure what she mean by that.
What's CVI? Ask the lunch lady in school knows.
Yeah, I'm not sure what she means by that. Can you explain that a little bit further before we leave, Miss Sheila? Because we only have a few more minutes.
Probably a statement on that. I know the lunch ladies probably would have thought I was in need, which I was. I think for me, and I think that's also why I highlight the underprivileged so much. Like even Osborne. Osborne is not a school that people think about of like really at all. Like in the last 30 years, it just started to become predominantly Black. Like Black people weren't even able to live in the red zone for a large portion of time. So
well, there was a lot of red zones in Detroit. I mean, when you go to, well, a lot of these high schools are not open, but people would be amazed if they go to some of these high schools and see the pictures on the wall, and the pictures on the wall of former famous alums don't look like me or you. And people need to understand Detroit was not always a predominantly Black city. Black flight actually started before the uprising, and the Mumfords, the Miller High School, Eastern High School, Osborne, Pershing, those were definitely predominantly white schools, particularly a lot of the ones on the west side. I mean, even Northwestern, when Northwestern had a very large white contingency of alums once upon a time. Oh, you must have saw this comment before I saw it, Jamaria, because she did say that lunch lady know who the deprived students are.
No, it was just me. I used to be one of those kids. I was the type of person. A college coach had told me one time, like, when I come to your school, I'm not gonna ask like your teachers or nothing. about like how you are. I'm the type of person that asks like, and it's so crazy that the brother was just talking about the MSU versus UM game. This is a MSU coach. He's down there in the gym. He was like, I'm not gonna ask your teachers about how you are. I'm gonna ask the janitor. I'm gonna ask the lunch lady. I'm gonna ask the guy across the street, the gas station clerk. Like, I'm gonna ask those type of people how you are. So ideally, when we out in the world, we don't think about those people of importance. But this is as was stated. If you go, they observe everything, and they're very intentional and they're very aware in things. But often, if you go to a lunch lady, they'll know who's doing, who's underprivileged, because those are the people keeping some kids fed. Oftentimes, especially myself, I'm going up there, I'm getting 2 lunches. It's against the what's it called? She gonna know, like, especially if it's something I like, I'm getting extra, just because understanding, like, I'm catching the bus an hour and 30 minutes to come to Osborne. So yeah, in the morning during breakfast, I may be a little bit more hungry, or yeah, I just went and worked out during lunch, so yeah, I may be a little bit more hungry. So whatever the case it may be, they understand who's going through a little bit more.
And G-Man, I knew you meant alumni, because that's the, I usually, I'm a big U of M fan, and so I, usually like watching to the comfort of my home. I've never been to the Urban Tailgate. I think that's what they call it. And I might take you up on that offer. If not, we will meet one day soon. Maybe you could come by on a Saturday when the show will be going back, not on a regular basis, but they will be going back to McShane's maybe once a month to do the show live from there. This was a good show. So for all the viewers, I definitely would like for you to like, subscribe, and share, because there's some good information for additional viewing later. You can share with your friends so they can check it out, because the conversation on education and literacy needs to be ongoing, because that's the only way we're going to improve it and bring people up to speed and make people more knowledgeable about what's going on. And I remember when you did that event over at the church, Mr. Hall, a lot of people had no idea about the $94 million settlement. Well, $94.4 million settlement. So it's still a matter of educating people about it. And it's only 2 more years before it expires, September 30th, 2027. So we still have time. You still have time to continue to educate people about it. So again, for all those that join, be on Facebook or YouTube Live, please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends. And education will be something I will talk about once a month, because it's just that important to me. I'm just that passionate about it, and I will always bring people on that can provide an additional perspective than my own when the topic of education is being talked about. Any last words, Mr. Hall?
Love the babies. If you see a child, you ain't gotta hug them, but at least tell them you love them. Praise God. We got to keep God first. God watching over all of us. Nothing happens for no reason. And again, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. We are the chosen ones. That's why we go through a lot of things that we go through, and not just as a color of people, but just as a generation of people. We living through a day and age to where we're going through some challenging times, and we're going to really dictate what the future looks like for a lot of us. So specifically, keep in mind the babies. We're not just inheriting the land from our ancestors, we're borrowing it from our children. So just love us, be instrumental in education. As Mr. Brown said, if you are somebody of proficiency or status, go adopt a school, go adopt a student. If you are somebody in need, reach out. The Gary B Initiative, which is my org that I created specifically to further the lawsuit's mission. We're doing some of just that. So just truly appreciate you, Mr. Brown, for continuing to be great, for continuing to advocate. Like I said, I always take my hat off to you. Anytime you call me, I'm always going to be there because that's the type of person you are. So I truly, truly appreciate you for stepping up and being here with us and being in this fight with us, because you don't have to.
Likewise. Yeah, likewise. And before we close, let me give you one last comment from G Money Hollywood. Good guy, and looking forward to formally meeting him. But he said, Mr. Hall, you are a strong testimony. Thanks for your support in the scholastic arena. So yeah, that's a heck of a compliment.
I like that name for real. I like that G Money Hollywood. Like that's what, like, if you name, that's one of them.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a big player back in the day up at Michigan State with a name like that. Yes, again, thank you, Mr. Hall, for all that joined me this evening. Thank you. And next week I will have on Jawan Howard. He's the founder of Umoja Debate Team. And in addition to that, he's opening up a bookstore called the Neighborhood Family Bookstore soon. And also next week I will have Chief of Police Todd Bettison on for a half an hour, Jawan Howard on for a half an hour. And until next time, thank you all again for joining me this evening. Peace and love. And to take us out on the words of Mr. Hall, love the babies and keep them first. Thank you. Good night.